share with you here in this corner full of plants at home is called Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. That is Sylvester right there. This is a folk tale, so it's a really old story that a lot of people have told, which means that it does have an author here. It's by William Steig. However, a lot of people have told the story kind of the same way that a lot have told the story of the Three Little Pigs. So this isn't the story's original author. It's a very, very old story. This is through the eyes of William Steig, though. Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. And it's to Maggie, Lucy, and Jemmy. There's Sylvester there. Sylvester Duncan lived with his mother and his father at Acorn Road in Oatsdale. One of his hobbies was collecting pebbles of unusual shape and color. There's his collection of pebbles. Pebbles are small rocks. I have a very creaky chair here today. On a rainy Saturday during vacation, he found a quite extraordinary one. It was flaming red, shiny, and perfectly round, like a marble. As he was studying this remarkable pebble, he began to shiver, probably from excitement, and the rain felt cold on his back. "I wish it would stop raining," he said. There he is, with his pebble, in the rain. To his great surprise, the rain stopped. It didn't stop gradually as rain usually does. Gradually means slowly, a little at a time. It ceased, completely stopped. The drops vanished on the way down and the clouds disappeared. Everything was dry and the sun was shining as if the rain had never existed. He looks very surprised there. In all his young life, Sylvester had never had a wish gratified, means granted, so quickly. It struck him, it didn't actually strike him, it didn't run into him, but it occurred to him, it came to his mind, that magic must be at work, and he guessed that the magic must be in the remarkable looking red pebble, where indeed it was. There was, in fact, magic there. To make a test, he put the pebble on the ground and he said, "I wish it would rain again." And he looks around. Nothing happened. Remember, the pebble's here on the ground in front of him. But when he said the same thing while holding the pebble in his hoof, the sky turned black, there was lightning and a clap of thunder, and the rain came shooting down. It is raining. Holding that pebble. "What a lucky day this is," thought Sylvester. "From now on, I can have anything I want. My father and my mother can have anything they want. My relatives, my friends, and anybody all can have anything anybody wants." Ooh, he's being very kind to others. He's saying anyone can use this. He wished the sunshine back in the sky, and he wished a wart on his left hind fetlock would disappear. I think that means his back leg, though I've never heard the word fetlock before. And it did, and he started home, eager to amaze his father and his mother with his magic pebble. He could hardly wait to see their faces. Maybe they wouldn't even believe him at first. And he's excited. As he was crossing Strawberry Hill, look who he's running into there. Thinking of some of the many, many things he could wish for, he was startled, he was surprised, to see a mean, hungry lion looking right at him from behind some tall grass. He was frightened. Scared. If he hadn't been so frightened, he could have made the lion disappear, or he could have wished himself safe at home with his father and his mother. He was too scared to even make a wish there. Let's see what happens next with that lion. He could have wished the lion would turn into a butterfly or a daisy or a fly. He could have wished many things, but he panicked and he couldn't think carefully. "I wish I were a rock," he said, and he became a rock. The lion came bounding over, sniffed at the rock 100 times, walked around and around it, and he went away confused, perplexed, puzzled, and bewildered. All of those mean confused. "I saw that little donkey as clear as day. Maybe I am going crazy," he muttered. And there was Sylvester, a rock on Strawberry Hill, with the magic pebble laying right beside him on the ground, and he was unable to pick it up. "Oh, how I wish I were myself again," he thought, but nothing happened. He had to be touching the pebble to make the magic work, but there was nothing he could do about it. His thoughts began to race like mad. He was scared and he was worried, and being helpless, he felt hopeless too. He thought of all the possibilities, and eventually he realized that his only chance of becoming himself again was for someone to find the red pebble and to wish that the rock next to it would be a donkey. Slim chance. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Someone would surely find the red pebble. It was so bright and shiny, but what on earth would make them wish that a rock were a donkey? The chance was 1 in a billion at best. Sylvester fell asleep. What else could he do? Night came with many, many stars. Meanwhile, back at home, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan paced the floor, frantic with worry their kid didn't come home. Sylvester had never come home later than dinner time. Where could he be? They stayed up all night wondering what had happened, expecting that Sylvester would surely turn up by morning, but he didn't. I lost my spot here. Of course, Mrs. Duncan cried a lot, and Mr. Duncan did his best to soothe her, to help her to feel better. Both longed to have their dear son with them. "I will never scold Sylvester again as long as I live," said Mrs. Duncan, "no matter what he does." At dawn, they went about inquiring of all the neighbors. Inquiring means they're asking. Going around to everybody. "Chickens, have you seen Duncan? Pig, have you seen Duncan?" They talked to all the children, the puppies, the kittens, the colts, the piglets, and no one had seen, I said Duncan. His name is Sylvester. No one had seen Sylvester since the day before yesterday. There are all the neighbors there. They went to the police, and the police could not find their child. In this world, the police are pigs, and the people looking are donkeys. I wonder if this is fiction or non-fiction. Think about what you know. Remember, fiction means fake. Is this a fake story or is it a real story? We have another clue in the type of pictures there are. They're illustrations instead of photographs. That can help us check out whether it's fiction or non-fiction. All of the dogs in Oatsdale went searching for him. They sniffed behind every rock and tree and blade of grass, into every nook and gully of the neighborhood and beyond, but they found not a scent of him. They sniffed the rock on Strawberry Hill, but it smelled like a rock. It didn't smell like Sylvester. There's all the dogs looking all over. After a month, wow, it's a long time, of searching the same places over and over again and inquiring of the same animals over and over again, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan no longer knew what to do. They concluded, that means that they decided, that something dreadful must have happened, and that they would probably never see their son again, though all the time he was less than a mile away. It's a very sad Mrs. Duncan. Very sad Mr. Duncan, too. They tried their best to be happy, to go about their usual ways, but their usual ways included Sylvester, and they were always reminded of him. They were miserable. Life had no meaning for them anymore. Night followed day, and day followed night. Over and over again, Sylvester on the hill woke up less and less often. While he was awake, he was only hopeless and unhappy. There he is, the little pebble beside him. He felt he would be a rock forever, and he tried to get used to it. He went into an endless sleep, and the days grew colder. Fall came with the leaves changing color. Then the leaves fell and the grass bent to the ground. Poor Duncan. Oops. Poor Sylvester. Keep mixing up his name. Then it was winter. The winds blew this way and that. It snowed. Mostly the animals stayed indoors, living on the food that they had stored up. They are all hibernating. One day a wolf sat on the rock that was Sylvester and howled because he was hungry. Then the snow melted. The earth warmed up in the spring and sun, and things budded. That means that they're growing flowers. Buds are tiny baby flowers that haven't opened yet. Leaves were on the trees again, and flowers showed their young faces. That rock is still there, and the tiny pebble next to him as well. One day in May, Mr. Duncan insisted that his wife go with him on a picnic. "Let's cheer up," he said. "Let us try to live again and be happy, even though Sylvester, our angel, is no longer with us." So they went to Strawberry Hill. What do you think will happen now that they're there where their son is? Mrs. Duncan sat down on the rock. The warmth of his own mother sitting on him woke Sylvester up from his deep winter sleep. How he wanted to shout, "Mother, Father, it's me, Sylvester, I'm right here." But he couldn't talk. He had no voice. He was stone dumb. Mr. Duncan walked aimlessly about while Mrs. Duncan set out the picnic food on the rock. Alfalfa sandwiches, pickled oats, sassafras salad, Timothy compote. Suddenly, Mr. Duncan saw the red pebble. "What a fantastic pebble!" he exclaimed. Sylvester would have loved it for his collection, and he put the pebble on the rock. They sat down to eat. There he is, little pebble. They sat down to eat, and Sylvester was now as wide awake as a donkey that was a rock could possibly be. Mrs. Duncan felt some mysterious excitement. "You know, Father," she said suddenly, "I have the strangest feeling that our dear Sylvester is still alive and not very far away." I am, Sylvester wanted to shout, but he couldn't. If only he had realized that the pebble resting on his back was the magic pebble. Ooh. "Oh, how I wish he were here with us on this lovely May day," said Mrs. Duncan. Mr. Duncan looked sadly at the ground. "Don't you wish it too, Father?" she said. He looked at her as if to say, "How can you ask such a question?" Mr. and Mrs. Duncan looked at each other with great sorrow. "I wish I were myself again. I wish I were my real self again," thought Sylvester. And in less than an instant, he was. There he is with all that funny food on his back. You can imagine the scene that followed. The embraces, that means hugs. The kisses, the questions, the answers, the loving looks, and the fond exclamations. Look how happy they are. In the middle of their picnic, too. When they had eventually calmed down a bit and had gotten home, Mr. Duncan put the magic pebble in an iron safe. He locked it up tight. Someday they might want to use it, but really for now, what more could they wish for? They had all that they wanted. There's their happy family all together again. And that is Sylvester and the magic pebble.